serious. When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some embarrassing stuff you said and beat yourself up over it? If so, what happened? Trick-or-treating with my little brother as kids. This woman several houses down is standing on her porch looking directly at me and hollers, "Hey, do you want to trick-or-treat with us?" My brother is across the street, so I holler uncomfortably loud, "Hey, you wanna trick-or-treat with them?" I turn back to the woman and she goes, "Oh, actually I was talking to those people," and points behind me to different kids. Canada letter thaw. Canada letter thaw. I died that day and my corpse has walked the world for 17 years since. I was really drunk once, and I got a phone call. I thought the caller ID said Matt, which was the name of a good friend at the time, so I yelled, "What's up, you sexy motherfucker?" into the phone. Turns out it wasn't Matt. It was Mark, who was my boss at the time, calling to ask if I could come in that evening to cover a shift. He was very old school, late 50s, no sense of humor. The awkward silence before he awkwardly pretended he hadn't heard it will haunt me forever. There was one morning at my previous job where I worked as a drafting assistant, basically just a highly technical administrative assistant who also performed technical writing, that I did something ungodly embarrassing. I was walking around one of the mechanical shops, checking up on a project, taking notes, pictures, marking stuff off. My usual routine. Well, as I come around the corner of the vehicle, there are two mechanical engineers working on the door. I can't recall exactly what I was checking at that moment, but in my attempt to get a good look, one of the engineers reached out his fist to give me a friendly morning fist bump. Now, I'd love to be able to say that I was tired that morning, or that I was simply too preoccupied with what I was doing. But that would be a lie. Here's what happened next. I lowered my clipboard and my pen and I stared at his fist for a good moment. I then turned to look up towards the man's face. I stared some more, and then I turned my attention back to his fist and continued to look. The man was still holding his fist out waiting for me. But at this point my lack of response got the attention of the other engineer he was working with. And so now he was looking at me. Two engineers staring directly at me, one with his fist out, and me looking at the fist. Finally, though, I began to outstretch my hand. However, instead of reaching out and returning the fist bump in kind, I extended my index finger. The two men's attention followed my hand. And, like a child touching a foreign substance, I pressed my finger to his fist. The man slowly returned his fist. He and his partner became transfixed on the part of his hand that my finger touched. The man held his hand up to see if I left a mark. His partner joined him in looking. There was no mark. They looked back towards me. I looked at them and then smiled. I then made my way back to my office. I was about halfway there before I realized the absolute absurdity of my actions. Once I got back, I didn't leave my office for the rest of the day. Oof. I had a mate in high school whose dad had recently passed away from cancer. A group of us were hanging out at lunch break and somehow we got onto the topic of Finding Nemo. I don't know why, but I blurted out, "Imagine if Nemo's dad was dead." The room just went silent, and then I made it worse by immediately going, "Sorry," possibly the cringiest moment of my life. I still have no idea why I said it. I got blackout drunk and begged my friend to let me suck his D in front of all my other friends. I still don't remember saying it, but the way they F with me 5 years later reassured me I said it. I've never had any thoughts, tendencies of being homosexual, so I'm still confused about it years later. General advice on this topic? While remembering something embarrassing you did, said, don't feel ashamed years and years after it happened. Think of it as it has happened to a friend of yours. Would you still laugh at him and make him feel bad years after the incident? Shit happens, forgive yourself. Edit: thanks for my first silver. Yes, and it's almost always the same situation. The first time a girl got me off, I said, oh man, now I have to change the sheets. She laughed so hard I thought I was going to die. When I was 11 I did AS at school and it clogged the toilet. Someone thought it was bark from the playground and told the teacher. After lunchtime the teachers set up a meeting with the classes. They were allowed to use the toilet and told us that whoever put the bark in the toilet had to own up or our camp would be cancelled. I was way too embarrassed to confess in front of the class and I felt horrible. I think one guy ended up confessing to get the class out of trouble. Actual legend. I decided I would tell the teacher after school, but then the cleaner came in and whispered something to the teacher in charge and the teacher told the class it was a big understanding. I wanted to die. I think I'm over it now, but that haunted me for a long time. I had to help a few teachers for a day at school. I was asked to grab an Animal Farm book from a classroom. I got to the classroom, asked for Animal Farm book at least 5 times, then realizing 30 minutes later that I completely misread the call. Removed. I married into an Italian and Greek family. Very affectionate, does the cheek kiss thing upon greeting and departing. The whole caboodle. I come from a no-touch home. We didn't kiss, hug, shoulder pat or touch each other in any way, shape or form, so it took me a good amount of time to get used to this type of behavior. There was a point in the summer when I was still new to the family that my FIL went in to kiss my cheek and I turned to kiss his and we accidentally brushed lips. We immediately drew back from each other and he poked fun at me for not turning the right way only for me to die a little inside. No one else was there to witness the destruction of my soul, but I will never forget that for as long as I live. There's a woman I go to school with. We have mutual friends and I find her physically attractive. But despite that my feelings toward her are a mixed bag, for lack of a better term. During freshman year, I was leaving a room one day and almost walked right by her. When I noticed it was her, my brain and heart panicked simultaneously. After duking it out, the two came to the conclusion that the perfect response to this dilemma was to start laughing. Maniacally, she stopped, turned around, and stared at me. Other people who left surrounding rooms stopped to stare at me. I was so mortified, but I couldn't stop. I'm pretty sure I was still laughing as I made my escape. Not my proudest moment. Deleted. This happens at least a couple times a week. The most recent one is for some reason I was off the entire day, like I just couldn't act like a normal person for some reason. Anyway, so I was filling up some gas tanks and sprayed my feet with gas by accident. I was born without a sense of smell. Important detail for later. Once my gas tanks were filled, I called my grandparents to tell them I was home to put the gas under their porch, and they told me my cousin and her fiancé was over. Okay, cool, I'll stay and say hi for a minute. I walk and say what's up, and ask my grandpa for the keys and say hi to everyone, and for no damn reason I completely forgot my cousin's fiancé's name, even though my grandpa just said his when I was on the phone not even 10 minutes ago. First cringe. Second cringe was after I dropped off gas and came back in. I walk back in and my grandma tells me I smell like gas and to leave my shoes outside. And for whatever reason after I come back and I just can't keep normal conversation, accidentally talking over people, looking at the wrong person while talking to someone else, saying things off topic, just being weird. Last cringe was when my cousin and her fiancé were saying bye. I said, how about a handshake, as my cousin is already hugging me. As she looks at me weird I say, you know, because of the gas. Not only my shoes got a little gas on them, I swear I was still cold sober the entire day. and I'm not usually this awkward or weird. Safe to say when I went home I had a few mixed drinks and wondered if I was actually retarded for a while. I helped a friend move once and decided to walk over to a nearby bar one night after we finished. He and his wife were both tired, so they went to bed. My night started normal enough with me just sitting street the bar enjoying a beer or three, but then I got to talking to some strangers, and then we started laughing and cutting up, then we were buying each other drinks, and then we were doing shots. Then they left, and I was by myself at this bar again, absolutely s-faced. Well, drunk me decides to be all outgoing with everyone standing outside smoking, and he decides to do this by walking up next to some nice Asian gentleman, putting his arm around him and complimenting his hair. He turns to the other dozen patrons and says, "Hey, who's got better hair, him or me?" I hadn't even done anything with my hair. It doesn't make any sense why I did this. It was just on my head looking like regular ass hair. That group was looking at me like that one meme where all those people are looking at the camera with WTF faces. The Asian guy politely removed my arm from his shoulder and went off with his friends, and soon it was just me and these two older women standing outside. One of them looks at me and goes, "Your hair isn't all that great," before stubbing her cigarette out and going inside with her friend. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to get more of the best posts.